Hi YouTube. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how I wired up this round aftermarket headlight to fit my Honda CB500F from 2018. This isn't quite as easy as you would think because there's some quirkiness with this headlight, so if you want to do anything similar with a CBR500R, CB500F, probably the X as well, this is going to be the way that you go about this. So the fly screen here arrived early. I bought it on eBay and the wrong part arrived, and I went back and I looked at the listing, and yeah, it's pretty clear in the pictures that this is the part that they're selling. They just had it labeled incorrectly, which is actually fine because I think this is going to look better. This is a Dart fly screen, and I ordered the Classic, which is a lot more like this and less of this. I think this is called the Marlin. But I think this sort of point is actually going to look better with the CB500F than the Classic looks. I think I like the way the Classic looks more, but for this motorcycle, this one's going to look better. So I've just put it in place here, given it a test, and I think I originally had the blinkers on the bottom. I've moved them up to the top. I think that looks better. It's raining, so I can't go outside, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on wiring, I think, now. Hi, Luna. Luna is sitting in the fly screen because apparently if I fits, I sits. This is the new headlight that I'm going to be putting on, and this is the old one. Completely different plugs. This plug here that goes into the headlight, can't find it. I'm going to keep looking because I would love to not have to mess up my sub harness by cutting into it. That would be ideal, but I may have to. I may not have a choice, but in which case, you know, I can always just buy another sub harness if this doesn't pan out. The reason why I'm so hesitant to do this is because I'm riding this motorcycle. It's my daily commuter, so I don't want to cut up my sub harness and not finish and have to go to work the next day. I've hooked up this black wire, this green wire, to my house batteries for the van, and that's going to let me test out this headlight. Now, there's some basic things. That the plug here, down here, this is ground, low beam, high beam. Then there's a little red wire and a green wire which comes off of there in these little sort of default looking connectors. So right now we have low beam, high beam, and that's two different ones here. For some reason the high beam just needs power to the high beam to put on the low beam and the high beam. Then we have this halo, which is connected to the red wire. If I leave that on, and then I also put some power to the green wire here, which does nothing on its own, that shifts to a sort of a turn signal, amber color. Okay, there we go. So that needs power to this little red cable that comes off and the green cable to turn amber. And then I can also hit this. You can see it's not quite as prevalent, and you can sort of see the LEDs because it's being illuminated from behind when those lights turn on. So this is an adapter that came with the headlight. I don't know what it's for, but I don't need it. So it comes with this plug, and if I cut this off, then I've got some pigtails for this. These are very standard connectors, so I should be able to wire something up at least that would end up where I need it to go for the connector, so that should be not too big a deal. Plugging in this little pigtail here, and I just put some heat shrink on it to sort of give this here some stability. Black becomes ground, yellow becomes low beam, and red becomes high beam. All right, so I'm just testing out with the indicators here. I completely forgot that they are in fact animated, so they work with constant power. My plan was to make them work as daytime running lights. It turns out that's impossible. So this is the sub harness. These two bits here were connected. I've separated them. That's the turn signal, and this is an option plug if you want to then add something on that requires power at the dash, say a USB plug, which at some point I definitely will want that. So I'm going to wire that to go up to the speedometer, because that's going to be up at nearest the handlebars. On the actual bike here, it's going to be sort of like this kind of position. So it'll be closest up to where I need to wire something into that, which means that this wiring harness is going to be sort of like this, and then these two going off like that. I cut these off of my OEM turn signals. I just did that because honestly, I looked up the parts, and with shipping, it's cheaper just to go to the Honda dealer and buy new it's ridiculous. So, and plus I'm impatient. So I found out that basically green is ground on both of these. And then there's a solid wire and a same color with a white stripe, you know, and left and right are different colors. And basically the stripe here is the constant power for the position light. And then this is the turn signal. Because of the animated nature of my LED turn signals, I can't use them as daytime running lights, which I wanted to. However, I do really like the look of these. I think it's exactly what I want. So I'm just not going to have them as position lights. I'm not legally required to have them on as position lights. So I won't. Okay, so I made these two little connectors here. The black ones here, negative, positive, and the other wires just sort of tucked away in here underneath of the heat shrink here, just in case I want to use it later or something like that. I can always take the heat shrink off. I decided to completely change the way I was doing that because there's a pretty big limitation for these turn signals, and that the nut here needs to fit over this entire connector, and those butt connectors weren't doing it. It was a bad way of doing it. They came off way too easily when I did take them off. So now I'm just soldering them in here. I forgot to put heat shrink on this one, so I'm going to have to use clever taping to get this to work. Yes, I know, girl. So I've actually finished these. I've basically just wired them up straight here. And even after filming the second one, I forgot to put the heat shrink on, so it's unfortunately not all the way. But these come down here into these default Honda style connectors. And then I've just tucked that one in there. This will, of course, connect. Where is it on here? Oh, there it is. These two just clip in right into each other, like so. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking this cover here, this little rubber housing, and sliding it down, just like that. Then with the other side, I went on ahead and I tucked it into the headlight hole, just to sort of clean things up a bit. I'm going to fiddle around with this, make sure that none of these wires are crossed like these ones are, and just get it where I want it. All right, so I've got these wired up to the plug here. Basically, I watched a Hoopty Doodle video. He's done a conversion on the 2016 version of my bike, which is the same version, just born a little earlier. Nothing's changed mechanically. And so he basically showed how you can wire this up. It's kind of a complicated process because the high beam doesn't actually accept direct power. It's a grounded circuit, but basically I wired the high beam and the high beam indicator together. I'm going to have to do another bit of jumping on the bike at a different spot to actually turn that ground into power. This here is the ground for the position light, which I guess on this bike is separate. This basically goes straight back and grounds further along to the ground for the headlight, so it's a pointless wire to begin with, but I'm just going to fold it back and tape over it so it doesn't short out or anything like that. Okay, so here is that final connection. I taped it up here, made it as, you know, durable and water resistant as I can, although of course the actual connection point itself isn't water resistant, so you can debate about how efficacious this is. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I should just be able to wire it up and do a test fitting in the morning. All of this wiring is based off of a video by Hoopty Doodle where he was doing his scrambler build for a CB500F from 2016, which is the same bike I have, only mine's a 2018. The problem with the CB500F wiring is that the high beams are on a grounded circuit. There's only one power going into the headlight for the low beams and the high beams, and then there's a line going back that's back down here, which has a switch on it further back in the wiring harness, but that's just grounded. It's a grounded switch. There's no power going to the high beams. And I didn't really know how that worked. All I watched was his video. He basically jumps two wires on further down in the harness to divert power from the horn over into the headlight, and that adds the high beams onto that circuit. Now with my headlight, that also adds the high beams and the low beams because both those turn on. And it just seems like it's not the right way to do it. So it took me about 5 seconds of Googling to figure out how that works. There's a relay in the default headlight. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. So that's also a really easy thing to do to add on to this would be, you know, take off the tape. Gonna have to cut some of the soldering that I did up and redo it. But I could just take a relay, a basic automotive relay, and the way that a relay works is it brings power in, and when that gets powered, it then puts power through. So I can basically put that high beam light, the wire for the high beam, to the relay, and then power the relay using the grounded, the OEM grounded switch, and have my aftermarket headlight, which requires power going to it rather than from it, operate the exact same way. And that's going to be, I think, just a cleaner install. It doesn't require ordering any very finicky parts. It doesn't require any sort of like jerry rigging down the line. It's all happening right up here, and it's done the same way, so that it's basically the right way to do it, in my opinion. So I've got this all wired up. I'm still going to put it on the bike in the morning, but I'll probably just put it on the bike, ride it to the electrical store and buy a relay, come back, take it all apart, redo it, and do it properly. Okay, it's the next morning, and I've just gone ahead and mounted up the headlight here. I think this is looking really good. This is what I want this look to sort of be like. Then I've just got this resting here because I don't have a spot for it yet, or a mount for it rather. And then the sub harness comes down here and plugs in over here. I've got the key in. As soon as I turn on the ignition, we see that we have low beams. I can then do, if I turn the hazards on, hazards work just fine. No problem with the blinkers. So the interesting thing about this is that the turn signals definitely have that hyper flash problem, which means that I still need a relay for that. Also, the position light has turned on. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. What happens if I hit the high beams? Nothing, right? Absolutely nothing, yeah. So I still need to fix that. I'm going to go out and get the relay using this. Let's make sure that everything on here is working fine. Yeah, we're getting our indication like that, just fine. High beams does nothing. Yeah, everything should be fine. I'm not getting any warnings that I shouldn't be getting. I'm not getting any warnings that I shouldn't be getting. Okay, so here's the hack job of keeping this in place for the test ride. I've also adjusted the angle of this. I think I'll probably have to do that a few times just to get it where I think it's necessary. I gotta figure out exactly where to aim this headlight that will give me the best reach on the road and the best look and all that. So I'm gonna just tighten these down, and then we'll go down to the auto parts store. So I've just driven it over to the auto parts store here. I came out and I realized that the headlight wasn't on, and that's because this comes out too easily. So when I do the final install, I'm gonna have to find a way of securing those together. I'm back from the hardware store, and I've picked up this 30 amp relay. This is a really useful electronic component. This one comes with this pigtail, which should allow me to very easily plug and play this thing and also wire it up to my existing harness, which of course I need to disassemble now, unfortunately. But basically, the way this works is if you run power through one side of it, it will let power through the other. It's very simple. What it is it's a switch and a magnet. The magnet flips the switch when it's powered. So when you power the electromagnet, it powers the line going through it. My first step is to add in a second lead here that's going to go to the position light to turn it amber if I want to. It's just nice to have the option, so I'm going to wire it in since I'm opening this up already. Okay, so on this pigtail, the white and blue wires go from this is the power that comes from the low beam. So these need to get spliced together and then added onto the low beam wire as well. this beam here goes straight to the headlight, and this one goes back to the switch. The red wire we don't need for this application, so I've just put some heat shrink over it, and we're going to ignore that it even exists. Okay, so here we go. I've got it wired in. This is the main plug here, and then this is the relay for the high beam. And I've also wired in this green wire here to modify the halo color if I want that option. It's a bit of a mess. I'm going to go plug it in and pray that it works, because I really don't want to have to rewire this. Well, the good news is that this light up, I just have the high beams on. I don't have the halo connected. And moment of truth, I'm going to flick the high beam switch. It bloody works. Yes. Okay. That is fantastic. Such a better way to do this. I'm really glad I gave this a shot. So yeah, that's how it is. I got low beams, I got high beams. Now let me just test out the halo with modifying it. Okay. Ooh. Yeah, that position light just blew a fuse. The fuse box for this bike is under the seat. There's a spare fuse that matches the one that blew, which was for the, it's for a lot of things actually. It's a pretty critical one. So it's for the tail, it's for the stop, it's for the horn, and that blew right there. There's a spare one kept up here that I just swapped out. So I need to go and buy some more of these because I should have them on me anyway. Here's the bike with that option on. I think I'm gonna leave it like this. It kind of did grow on me, to be honest. I can always swap it out now that I have that option, as long as I'm careful and I cap it off. Okay, so I've just popped this headlight out of its bucket so that I can pull the wires through, arrange them how I want on the inside here, and then just clean up the harness in the back. I've also finished taping up the wiring harness up here by the headlight and relay. Okay, so I've got all of the wires tucked nicely away. If we come down here, we can see that everything is going into the bucket through the hole in the bottom, and then the rest of it is running back here. So here's my speedometer mounted on with Velcro strapping. I basically don't have enough time to make a mount today, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to go with this. It's a lot more secure than the tape version. It's not going to go anywhere. I got a long ride to go today. I got to go down to the opposite side of the city to pick up a flasher relay to fix the flashing on the turn signals, and then I have to go to work. So I'm just going to see how this goes. Hopefully everything goes well with the light, and I don't have any further problems, but it'll be a good way to test ride this. I've also swapped back to the brighter halo. So I got a check engine light on, and I've come back here and I've just done a little jumping thing, which is what a forum told me to do, which should give me a code on here that tells me what I've done wrong. So that was really interesting. What that code worked was, it was 8 long flashes, 6 short flashes, which is code 86. Pretty cool way of doing it. Code 86 is basically bad power coming up to here. So what I did was I unplugged and I replugged this connector. It got damaged when I was doing some soldering. There was some damage to the plastic. You can see that here. And it maybe just didn't seat properly when I put it back. So I put it back in. That code's gone. We'll see if it comes back. Hopefully it doesn't. So what I've done here is I've just removed the seat. I need to remove the gas tank so that I can install the flasher relay that changes the speed of the blinkers. So I've just popped the fuel tank off and replaced this little part here, which is a flasher relay with one by TST Industries, specifically made for this bike, which allows me to adjust the rate of the blinkers. So we have them going here. You can see the animation, the scrolling back and forth there. That's with the hazards on. And then if I flip one way or the other, we get a signal going across. A lot slower. I quite like it. So that's how I went and rewired an aftermarket headlight onto my 2018 CB500F quirky bike. But I actually learned a lot. Deciding to switch from the hoopty doodle method to the relay method, I think, was the right decision for me. Just because it makes this plug and play up at the front here. I can swap out to any other headlight of this style and also not have to worry about any of the other wiring that's hidden away in there being wrong if I come back to it at a later date. If I have to bring this to a mechanic, I feel pretty confident that I can just give it to them and they won't have any wiring work that they do on the bike. They'd be able to do more or less no problem. Maybe just short of if that actual connection up here inside the headlight got damaged. So let me guys know what you think about this. If you have any questions at all, leave a comment down below. I'm more than happy to answer anything. And if I messed up and did anything wrong, please, I'd love to know if there's a better way of doing something like this. But yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that this is turning out.